In this video, I'm going to show you how to add bookstore notes for your OERs, your open educational resources, so that the information is clear for your students and hopefully saves you answering a bunch of emails about what course materials are we using. In this video, we'll look at some caveats, and then we'll look at 4 scenarios that are fairly common when using OERs. We do understand that there may be scenarios outside of these 4, and if that's the case and you need guidance, you'll see at the very end of this video the names of your local OER representative to the task force, so you can contact them and ask for guidance or suggestions. So let's start with a few caveats. First, you want to make sure that your course is marked as NoLo in the course schedules and in SIS. To do that, you just email the registrar with the pertinent information, and you'll see here there's a couple of examples of what that information might look like. This way, if a student looks at a printed schedule, they should see the NoLo moniker, and if they look in SIS, they should also be able to see that the course uses no-cost or low-cost materials, which would be a retail value in the bookstore of $40 or less for all of those materials. Then, I'm going to show you how to add section notes to your selections in the bookstore, but you'll need to make sure that you email those notes to the bookstore manager as well, just to make sure that they are clear for students and that they're actually visible to students. It's important to note that there is a 250 word limit for section notes. Then, once your bookstore manager has confirmed that the notes are in there, you'll want to go and double check to make sure that the notes appear as you want them, and you'll need to double check that in both SIS, and you can go to your college's website and then look at the bookstore website. So this is what the information would look like at the college bookstore's website. You can see there's a section note, and there's the ISBN, there's a link up here to the book, and then if we look at SIS, you can also see that the course has the attribute that it's a no-cost, low-cost course, and if I click on textbook information, that should lead back to the same information in the bookstore's website. So in this first scenario, you're using an established OER textbook, something like an OpenStax or something from Pressbooks or LibreText maybe, and the suggested wording we have is here. Remember, there is a 250 word limit for your section notes. So let's see how you actually get this into the bookstore's website. So I'm now logged into the Follett Discover site, and I'm going to work on adoptions for a biology course, a lecture, and a lab that use 2 different types of resources. For this course, I know the ISBN, so I've typed that in, and then I click Adopt. And then I'm going to click on the course name, which will take me to the next page where I can add my notes. So I'm going to scroll down to where it says Student Instructions, click Add, and that's where I'll put my notes. These are the notes that I want to add, and just to make sure that they're 250 words or less, I'm going to do a word count, and you'll see I just typed in the search bar word count, and this tells me that I'm at 26 words. Sorry, I should have said 250 character limit and 199 characters, so I'm okay. So I'm going to take these notes, paste them into this student instructions area, and then click Save. You can always go back and edit the notes later if you choose to. The next step would be that you send these notes to your bookstore manager and ask them to make sure that they're in exactly as you've stated. And this is an example of the document that I'm building to send to the bookstore manager. If you do lots of book adoptions like I do, you'll probably want to put them in something like this. If you're just doing, a few classes, you could certainly paste these notes into an email and send those to your bookstore manager. In our next scenario, we're going to look at a case where the course uses an OER textbook and also uses some ancillary materials that are also OER or would be linked in Canvas, or might be lab materials that are provided freely to students from the instructor. So I'm back in File at Discover, and I'm going to scroll down and work with a nutrition course that fits this scenario. In this case, this course uses a textbook that is free to read online, but there's no ISBN number. So I'm going to go into the course and again scroll down to the course notes and paste in my instructions to the student about my free OER book and that the lab materials will be provided by the instructor in Canvas or in person, depending on how you are running the course. If this was a case where you're using a book that's freely available online and then you're going to also give students some extra materials in Canvas, then you can change this part about lab materials to other resources or other OER materials will be provided by your instructor in Canvas. Don't forget to save. Because this course has a separate lab and lecture section, I've put the same notes in both of those courses just to cover all the bases. So in this case, we're talking about a scenario in which you've made a packet of notes or you've made your own book that qualifies as OER or NoLo and that students need to purchase that. So let's look at how that works. I'm going to work with a case of a lab manual that's printed in-house. So I'm back at File at Discover and I'm going to work with these two lab courses. So I'm clicking on the name to get into the course, and then just like we did before, I'm going to scroll down to the student instructions and add my instructions. So you can see I've pasted in my notes, and of course I want to click Save. So if you've used a note packet that you want the students to buy, whether that's through the bookstore or through the bursar's office, we call the bursar's office is behind our one stop at my college, you can change these instructions to suit your particular situation. But what we've done here is given students information so that they know that nothing to worry about. Where are you going to get your lab manual? You'll get it at the one stop. How much is it? It's $35. And this hopefully will save the instructor from emailing or answering the same question in multiple emails. If you're teaching in an allied health program, maybe what you're asking students to do here is buy a kit for a course, and if that kit qualifies as having a NoLo cost, right, you'd want to let them know that, but the kit doesn't necessarily have an ISBN to put into Follett. So in this last scenario, we're going to look at how do you designate that you're using entirely OER materials, and all of that material will be available freely to students in Canvas. I'm back in File at Discover, and I'm going to scroll down to the course that I'm working with, click on the course name, and then just like we did before, scroll down to the student instructions, paste those in, and then of course click Save. So what if you discover that, oops, I put this information in the wrong course? Oh no. I can actually just edit again and delete all of that and save it. So do remember that even though we've put these notes into the Bookstore site, into the Follett site, they won't appear to students until your Bookstore manager has put them in. And I'll show you an example. So while I was making this video, my Bookstore manager approved my adoption for this book, but the notes that I put in haven't been sent to her yet. I haven't emailed them to her yet, so she won't see them, and neither, well, she might see them, but the students won't see them yet. If you need any additional help with putting your notes into the Bookstore's website, the Follett Discover site, or figuring out how to write your notes so that they're most helpful and clear for students, you can contact your Bookstore manager or look in this list to find your campus's OER Task Force representative. Looking for more information on NoLo and OER resources? Log into my.ccsnh.edu and search for Open CCSNH.